Hey everybody, Fight Club Hubs here of GVN, and welcome to Amiga CD32 Month. This is my little introduction video to the little system that only a small fraction of people in North America really know about. This is a system called the Amiga CD32. Now this system only had a limited release in North America. Actually, it was only ever released in Canada. My copy right here is actually the PAL version from Europe. Where the system actually sold a lot better. Actually, in the UK, this system actually managed to outsell the Sega CD, also known as the Amiga CD, at one point. Now, if you don't know what the Amiga CD32 is, well, we got to talk about the company that created it first. That is Commodore. Everyone knows who Commodore is. I mean, you know about the Commodore 64, a computer that was made in the 80s. Well, they made a few more computers too. There's the Commodore 128 and a line of computers that everyone really should need to know. It's called the Amiga line. It started off with the Amiga 500 that came out in, I think, 1987, and then it progressed onwards to about, I think, the Amiga 1200, which is actually hardware is quite similar to what is inside the Amiga CD32. More about that later. I mean, but first off, I just want to mention that I'm actually just doing a retrospective of the system. I'm not going to get into too much detail about it itself. I'm going to let some friends of mine let you in on that later on. So, first off, the thing I like about this is the fact that the Amiga CD32 is just a straight up beast of a machine for something that was released in 1993. It's literally like just a mini PC in here. I mean, if you look at it, it's probably like kind of a prototype to what the Xbox was when Microsoft released that back in 2001. Pretty much it was just a PC in the box that Microsoft made. And with just a couple of attachments that you can plug into the back right here, because there's a removable plate right here in the back, you can install some modules back there. One of them is called the SX32 and the SX1, which pretty much adds a parallel port, a floppy disk port, and a couple other ports that allow you to literally turn this into a computer. You can plug a mouse and a keyboard into it, and it actually has Kickstarter 1.3, I believe, in the system. Over here, there's actually 3 ports right here on the side. This is actually in my opinion, this is kind of a design flaw right here. I mean, it's definitely better than, let's say, the Super Famicom or the original Famicom and some other systems where they decide you have to plug the controllers in the back of the system. This is just as goofy. I mean, it's right here on the side. Right here we have an auxiliary port, which I think you can actually plug in like any PS2 like compatible keyboard or mouse. I have not tested that yet, but don't quote me on it. The controller ports are actually little 9 pins that actually have a wide range of compatibility with classic Amiga controllers and arcade sticks, and you can even plug in Sega Genesis controllers in there as well, which is actually much better than what happened on the classic Amiga line of computers, where I plugged in a Sega Genesis controller into that because it was the same pin and I fried my controller. What else can I really say about this system? Because I just recently got this and I am actually finding myself enjoying the games quite a lot. This is straight up just a gaming system, and if there's one thing I have to say is that the games are phenomenal. Now, if you're curious as to why, like I mentioned, this is PAL, and I got the PAL signal running on my LCD monitor right here. That's because I'm actually using an upscaler, which is allowing me to put it on my screen. But here's another interesting thing that you should find out. This system is kind of not region locked. Now, if you have an Amiga mouse and you can plug it right here into controller port 2, you hold down both mouse buttons, you hit the reset, you'll be brought up to the BIOS screen. And that'll allow you to actually change the region from PAL to an NTSC signal, and then you can do that back and forth again. And there are only a few games that can only be played either in an NTSC signal or in a PAL signal. One of the games I got, which is just an American copy of Zool, classic platformer. I'll talk about that later this month. It will only let you play it in NTSC mode. So, but there are a whole bunch of American games, and there actually are not a whole lot, that you can actually play in both PAL and NTSC. Kind of like definitely no region lock required, or region swapping whatsoever. Surprisingly, one of the things I like about this is actually the majority of the games, unfortunately, are Amiga computer ports. But that's not a bad thing, because for the most part, they enhance most of these games with, improved music, added FMV intros, or spoken dialogue. So they try to find ways to fill the discs. These are games we're talking about that normally don't take more than 2 or 3 floppies. Now, one of the last things I do want to say is that the Amiga is unfortunately the swan song of Commodore. One of the sad things about this is that that Commodore was going through bankruptcy, and they were really banking on this system. So it's a shame that the system never fully managed to make its release in North American territories. Only a small quantity made it into Canada. The reason why is, from what I understand, is they just didn't have the financial backing to go with the full North American release. On top of that, they were having issues, I believe, with just being able to import the system into North America. The system, even though it was more popular in Europe, it just didn't sell that well. It didn't sell well enough. From what I understand, it just sold barely over 100,000 units, which, back then in 1993, that's actually kind of a decent number for video game consoles. It took most video game systems like the Nintendo Entertainment System about a couple of years to really get on the ball and start rolling. Actually, there is one more thing. The system does have some amazing capabilities. It was considered one of the first 32-bit systems to come out, but because it came out at a time where technology was just starting to improve quickly, it released at a time just before the dawn of the 3D era. So the system is capable of producing basic 3D games, and there's only one 3D game I believe that actually was released for this, and it's called Guardian. It's kind of like a Star Fox style graphic game, and it does use the chipset in here. I think it's called the Akiko to its full advantage. Now, I really look forward to talking more about the games this month, but before I do that, I have to mention one more flaw, and I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier. It's actually this. This is the controller of the Amiga CD32. It is actually quite comfortable to hold, oddly enough, but the biggest flaw is actually the D-pad itself. The D-pad, as you can see, is, for whatever reason, angled, and it's just a circle. And you have buttons, you have these little indents right here on the 4 points, and it's very awkward to play most games, because believe it or not, most of the platformers you actually press up to jump, and it's very awkward when I'm sitting here thinking I'm pressing right, and all of a sudden I'm pressing up right, and I don't even realize it. My character's just jumping around like a madman. They did release another controller, and it's called the Competition Pro. This one is actually resembling a Sega Genesis controller, but it kind of has like the idea of like a Super Nintendo controller on it, because it's got the triggers right here, and it's got the facing of like a Super Nintendo controller, but it's got the D-pad in, which feels exactly like a Sega Genesis controller, which is very nice. Other things to mention, I'm just thinking things on top of my head to talk about, because this is a retrospective. I've actually waited 22 years to get one of these systems, and I don't regret what I did. I got a whole bunch of games for this. I really look forward to talking to them about with you. Some of the first games I'm going to talk about actually right here. I actually managed to find a gem. Probably one of the best games I've played. It's actually a lot of fun. It's Pierre Le Chef Out to Lunch. I got another game for you. It's called Pinball Illusion, which is actually one of 3 pinball games released for the system. And another one put out for Commodore is Deep Core. I look forward to talking to you about that very soon. So anyway, I hope you're all looking forward to Amiga Month, and because I sure as hell am. And thank you, and have a good night.